Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon. And I'm doing a finish up on this, basically be a two-part series. There's a little bit of an introduction, but the mystery map, go into more detail on the background of it here very shortly. All right. I want to point out that in the bottom left there, you see that the person designated that triangle there as the temple or land of Goshen, and that this appears to be the area to be less affected, less hit by Yah's judgment, and the initial gathering region for the elect, whether they'll be pushed or driven or led here. So in a lot of cases, people I am in contact with are already within that region before they contact me. Great Lakes region, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, whatever. And Texas, a lot of people in Texas. I recently had a man whose entire family, he came to Arkansas many decades ago because his wife wanted to come back home, quote unquote. And everybody in his family is inside that red circle. And they're not that far. Texas to Arkansas is, hop, skip, and a jump. Okay, 7-hour drive, something like that, I think he said. So, I wanted to just get into this. This is from the video, A Pole Shift and the New Madrid Quake. That's the title of the video. And Lisa covers it in more detail. You can see a little bit of it there, the Mercy Cloud, kind of covering the OzArk Plateau itself. It actually is not terribly inaccurate. It's got a lot of it in southwest Missouri, a little bit of, very little of Kansas, if any at all, and that, it's just a drawing. Some northeast Oklahoma, and a bit of northwest Arkansas. So, but roughly the size of the area pretty much covers the Ozark Plateau, and actually that does cover the Ouachita Mountains, which will be also a safe region just because of that. I'm just saying that because of the height, the altitude of the Ouachitas are about at the same altitude as the Ozark Plateau, and places in between. So, notice on the bottom right there the diamond, oddly enough, inside of that Mercy Cloud. He calls cities of refuge. Then that's going to be like the, says you can call it a remnant refugee camp. I don't remember what the rest of it said. An improvised, whatever. Anyway, remnant refugee camp's a good thing, good way to say it. Kind of, it would be the most desperate fallback, last stand, interior, the most interior place of the most interior part of the country. I did a study one time. You can do it yourself. Google or do a search for the inhabitants were driven inland, and you'll cover scenarios on every continent and every era of man's history. When there's an invasion, you have nowhere to go but inland. And that's what George Washington saw. America attacked from both coasts, both borders. People were driven inland into a wedge-shaped area, which is one of the reasons for this triangle here. That's a wedge-shaped area. I have noted before that the Ozark Plateau, look at the bottom right there, a Google Earth shot of the Ozark Plateau, you would see it from the air, as in George Washington's vision, as a wedge, whether from the south, the west, the east, or the north. It would appear as a wedge. In other words, a wedge. A triangle is not necessarily a wedge. All 3 points of the triangle are a wedge. Well, the Ozark Plateau is 4 wedges, 2 120-degree wedges and 2 60-degree wedges. All right. Covered this just about where I left off, but it's not clear enough for me to even though I kind of remember it. remnant refugee camp. All right, so moving right along. Cities of refuge, covered that. All right, so this is the channel that this is a video response for the OzArks Journey to Self Sufficiency, and the title is Pole Shift in the New Madrid Quake. And her last 3 videos have been very, really very cool, very apropos, very telling. Strategic relocation in the Ozarks. I'm surprised she didn't get hit for that. Maybe they are doing the owner of the video, Alex Jones of all people, and Joel Skousen. Maybe they're just making money on it. Well, sometimes they put advertising on and they don't ding you, they don't take you off, they don't strike you. They just make money on it because you had a clip, and she had quite a long clip. Anyway, watch that video. Very good. 1.6 thousand views, not bad. Maybe I should do something on that. 3.1 thousand views, 3.5 thousand views. Wow. I'm getting 35 or 80 to 100. I guess it's time to do one on flat Earth, eh? All right, so pole shift in a new Madrid quake, the hiding place, very interesting. There is a hiding place for God's people. It's where that red dot is there. All right, so the I believe that the maker, the man that actually made that map, and I'm fairly certain of this because everything fits, started back in the 60s, and he has been building an ark for about 60 years. So figure he's about half where Noah was at. So this is an article, you can look it up yourself if it's still online, March 31st, 1988, Ron Grossman, Chicago Tribune, AmericanFraud.com/John Harrell. Civil War, a tiny town holds its own against a rebel son. Okay, Louisville, Illinois, sorry. Johnny Bob Harrell hasn't set foot in Courthouse Square for 25 years. He's hardly forgotten. Mention his name in Phyllis Perkins' Courthouse Cafe, and the small town hospitality that usually greets a stranger instantly vanishes. Don't talk to me about that SOB, whose drugstore also sits on the square. Too many folks here suffered because of him, etc., etc., etc. So basically, this is a little farming community, county seat, 100 miles east of St. Louis, a little tiny town, Louisville, population 1,166. Oddly enough, the same exact population per square mile of Switzerland. Okay. So, but I like this comment here. And here's one of the things that fits, is that the man was very visionary. Remember how Noah worked on his ark for 120 years, yet not one of his neighbors had the sense to copy him, the intelligence to copy him? Harold says, why, the animals had more sense, and people out here are no different. Their imagination stops at the outskirts of town. That's why we aim our message to the whole nation, not this little crossroads. So his message is contained in the countless stacks of brochures and newsletters that fill the headquarters of his Christian Patriots Defense League, occupying a replica of Mount Vernon he built just outside the city limits. Harold attributes the architectural style of his anti-subversive movement's headquarters, like most things in his life, to divine intervention. The Lord told him, he explains, to measure our first president's plantation and build a slightly overscale version 1 block north, 3 blocks east of the Clay County Courthouse. Used to live there, doesn't anymore, for his own, kind of for his own protection. He explains that the 55-acre estate that includes the headquarters is part of a subdivision that he developed 30 years ago. Currently, he devotes himself 100% to his movement and to scrupulously honoring a vow he made the day he was taken to the courthouse in handcuffs to exile himself forever from the town square. So, at the bottom there, you could say I provide a community service, since whatever goes wrong around here, they blame me for. I bet on Judgment Day, the good citizens of Louisville will beg off, saying, none of it was my fault. Johnny Bob did it all. So he's the scapegoat in the wilderness. So, and just the article talks about, it's a convoluted story, about as emotional as a biblical saga. He was going to be the first millionaire in Clay County, the late A.C. Thompson Town's real estate broker is known for saying. By the early 50s, though, Harold was starting to think there was more to life. One day I was awestruck by the realization that God is big enough to run the whole universe, yet small enough to get inside a man's heart. So he became preoccupied with morals and communism and everything else, and basically that's where it pretty much. I wanted to just cover that much of it. Now this is another article, website, whatever, Wineland Watch, WordPress.com. These people that watch out for cults and whatever. Get your exit counselor if you want to get out. But it mentions Harold in here. Bottom. Living Church of God apologist Bob Thiel claims here that Johnny Harrell has responded to a personal email inquiring as to his identity. I came from Worldwide and Short Stay and United. These are just different splinters, denominations, splits. Thiel does not give any evidence denying Harrell's link to Christian identity groups beyond "I say it is so." Nor is Thiel providing solid evidence that such an email was sent and or received beyond his own word, which is clearly biased. Anyway, so. And then right in this one, there's one sentence there. Third main paragraph, initial speculation. Please note, I never stated it as anything but. Asked whether or not Johnny Harrell, the newly appointed evangelist for the U.S. and Canada, was the founder of the Christian Patriots Defense League. Information here and here suggests that one John Robert Harrell is not affiliated with CPDL any longer. As of 1996, he was apparently in Missouri, and sometime earlier this month he was arrested for fraud, blah, blah, blah. Next paragraph. According to this, the Christian Patriots Defense League was the political wing of the Christian Conservative Church of America, with the Citizens Emergency Defense System being the same organization's armed militia. This organization was started in the early 1960s. That means Johnny Bob or John Robert or Johnny Harrell, whoever he is no spring chicken. Listening to Harrell's sermon on the Church of God and PKG site, the tone and accent of Harrell's voice confirms that COG, PKG's Harrell may be in the same age bracket as the Johnny Harrell mentioned above. Okay, so whether he is or not on that situation, just is not that important right here. Point is that he's been at this since 1960, and I want to go back to, come on, the map, that one. Okay. This is from that 18-page document you can access on Ken Updegrove's arkhaven.org website. He has a link for the entire document. It's a very fascinating read, but you can see by the mimeographed and the blurred stuff that this was run off on a black and white, old-fashioned purple ink, whatever, mimeographed and copied. So it's an old document, and it goes back to, I guess, 1960 or thereabouts. And this article, this document, I've always called it a document because it's a fascinatingly wonderful document on where do you want to live in America. And it basically says the OzArk Plateau. Very old. This map was made by a Christian survival group in Illinois. They mentioned George Washington's vision as a reason for the wedge shape, which I've